Like it or not, the internet is playing a big role in our lives, especially now more than ever. So, a question on a lot of people's minds is, what should the government's role be in it? More specifically, what should the government's role be in cybersecurity? Should they have any role in it, or should they have no role at all? Cybersecurity is a relatively new thing, so what exactly is cybersecurity? Fisher writes in an ebook titled Creating a National Framework for Cybersecurity, an analysis of issues and options, in which they define cybersecurity as a set of activities and other measures intended to protect from attack, disruption, or other threats. Computers, computer networks, related hardware and devices software, and the information they contain and communicate, including software and data, as well as other elements of cyberspace. So what exactly does this mean? It means cybersecurity is anything that you do to protect computers, data, software, anything related to that. Protect it from attack and outside influence. So, who might commit these cybercrimes and who is exactly at risk? Well, a large variety of different people commit cybercrimes, such as hackers, other nations, and hackers who are sponsored by other nations. So, who is the target of these attacks and who is at risk? Well, really anyone who uses the internet, computers, or smartphones, especially companies and governments, because they have a wide variety of different, very sensitive and very valuable information. There are many different common arguments against having the government have a role in cybersecurity. In fact, Christine writes in a book titled Cybersecurity in the Federal Government, Failing to Maintain a Secure Cyber Infrastructure, in which they state, those who uphold government involvement in cybersecurity management argue that the federal government is not sufficiently equipped to develop and enforce cybersecurity policy and regulations. Essentially, they are saying here that the government is not prepared, equipped, or even ready to create policy and relegate this policies that they create. Of course, there are other questions, such as, how do we hold them accountable? That is a very big question for many different things that's involved in the government. And of course, another one is, do they have too much control? Will this give them too much control? And of course, trust is a major factor, and trust is a big problem people have with different governments. But of course, all these problems can be solved. In fact, there are many different reasons why we should have the government have some role in cybersecurity. There have been many different recent attacks, such as Target and Yahoo, that show us this is a direct threat to the American people. Interestingly enough, more hacks and data breaches are being traced to other nations. And in these attacks, you lose very valuable information. Of course, with more communication between the private sector and the government, we can better defend ourselves against different cyber attacks. And of course, some things have already been done. In 2013, Magnuson, in an article titled Defense in Industrial Base Wary of Cybersecurity Laws, talks about a executive order that the president at that time created. In that, he says, President Obama earlier this year released an executive order aimed at guarding critical infrastructure in private hands from cyber espionage and attacks. So, I took a quick survey. I asked 20 different people with different backgrounds and different age groups if they think that government should have a role in national cybersecurity. They could either answer yes or no. This pie chart here shows us that more people answered yes to the question. In fact, 14 people answered yes, and 6 people answered no. And of course, the opposing side's problems have many different ways to fix it. For the question of accountability, we can create different legislation to create or allow non-governmental groups to oversee what the government does in cybersecurity. This will help hold them accountable to the actions they take. Too much control? Well, if we create clear and defined boundaries to what they can and cannot do, we can create meaningful limits to their control. And in the question of if they're properly equipped to do this, we can use legislation to create the proper governmental agencies to deal with it. If we do all these things, we can help foster and develop trust in the government. Burge writes in his magazine article titled Regulating Security on the Internet, Control versus Trust. In summary, trust is valued as a fruitful strategy to cope with uncertainty because, amongst others, trusting actors can keep transactional costs low, foster innovation, and feel confident enough to develop new services and goods. Essentially saying, if we can create trust in the government, then we can get things done. So, the government should definitely have some level of intervention in national cybersecurity to protect the people and the data we have. Thank you.